Hi, Tim Bennett here. I hope you're all safe and well. This is a special episode from the Test Community Network. I've been in conversation with Dan Koenig from the EQAO, which is the host organization for the IAEA conference, which is taking place in Canada. This is the global conference to really unpack educational assessment and educational measurement. This is where researchers from across the world descend and present their research finding, really helping every organization around the world just accelerate their adoption of assessment, to think about trust, think about technology, think about accountability, think about how we're going to progress assessment, especially in this time now with AI and how much disruption is coming on. So here's me in conversation with Dan, just to learn more about the conference and more about their involvement. Dan, welcome. Thank you for joining me. Are you well?
I'm good, Tim. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very, very good. Very good. Very murky here, but I'm in high spirits. I'm really pleased to be chatting with yourself. So, for anyone who doesn't know you and the EQAO, do you want to just tell us a bit more about yourselves?
Sure, thanks. I'm Dan Koenig. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Education Quality and Accountability Office, and we look after all the large-scale assessments in the province of Ontario. So K-12, we have a number of different assessments that we organize for students attending public school here in Ontario. And then we also have taken on what's called the Math Proficiency Test, which is a certification for teacher candidates that they must pass in order to be certified to teach in Ontario. So that's basically a large what we do here at EQAO. My background has been in education, public service for over 40 years. I was a teacher, a principal, a superintendent. I ended my career as Associate Director, Chief Operating Officer at Toronto Catholic, which had about 90,000 students, 200 schools. And it's a little bit different here in Ontario, where Catholic schools are publicly funded. So it's part of the public education system with English, French, public, and Catholic. And so I had worked there. And then this is my 5th year here at EQAO, loving each and every day.
Excellent, thank you, and thank you for kind of providing just that little bit of an insight into to your region and the way it works. Because I was watching the OECD webinar last week when they were talking about exam systems, and it is quite an eye-opening kind of experience to just learn how the different systems work or don't work in some places as well, don't they? So you're very kindly kind of one of the host organizations for the IAEA conference. It's coming to Toronto, isn't it? Later on in September. What is it from your perspective, and why does it matter so much to the assessment community?
Yeah, I think, IAEA stands for International Association for Educational Assessment, and it is the world's leading professional community really dedicated to high quality educational assessment, right? So I think that it brings together a variety of different individuals. So you get assessment organizations, you get Ministry of Educations, you get researchers, you get psychometricians, you get technology innovators, and they're coming from over 50 different countries. So when you talked about really understanding, when you're listening to OECD and understanding what's happening around the world, here's your opportunity, right? To really engage and discuss and find out what is happening in different jurisdictions around educational assessments, and what are some of the high stake assessments, and what are some of the, early reading and early math strategies that are happening? What are the graduation requirements? What are the certification requirements? So I think it's the opportunity to connect global leaders who are shaping how learning is measured. And it could be from classroom assessments to national and international assessments as well. And the IAEA is really a neutral, research-driven forum to share that evidence, right? To compare approaches and to learn from each other. And I think it's a little bit different. You go to so many conferences, and a lot of vendors are there, and they comprise like sometimes 50% of the conference. And that's where sometimes you're, okay, this really isn't what I'm here for. Yeah. Now, I mean, vendors are important, obviously, for a conference to work. And we want vendors to attend and be part of our conference. But it really on the ground in the sessions dedicated to those people that are going to make a difference, right? In educational assessment, really have the know-how, those global thought leaders that are ultimately going to, influence policy, influence the resource allocations, the curriculum design, And then ultimately, what we're all about here is improving student success and student achievement.
And the submissions are open at the moment. They close towards the end of March, don't they? And I know that there's a lot of planning going involved in making sure this event is one of the best things. It's the 51st, isn't it, of the series? So phenomenal, really. I've got two questions here for you now. I'm going to wrap them together, but so kind of look into those the challenges that we're expecting to kind of face here in the community and the voice, because you mentioned about the researchers and people who, if you could shape the I suppose the voice and the message and the content, what do you think is the most relevant stuff that we should be tackling right now, and who should be there to help us tackle it as part of that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Tim. Thanks. I think, and begin to thinking about when I talk to my staff, and I'm always talking about what's our evidence provide, right? Well, like what's the impact and the influence around the data that we provide around, the achievement of the students. And really, it comes around policy, programs, and resources, right? So when we begin to look at that, we want policymakers, those national assessment leaders, to be part of the conversation. We want school and system leaders as well, because a lot of this is the K-12 education organizations that are going to be part of involved in the discussion. And then I think, looking at researchers and university, thought leaders that can come in and have done a lot of the background work to say, here are your best practices. Here's what the research is telling us, and this is what can influence the type of assessments that you produce. And then, of course, there's so many people moving from paper to digital, and the ed tech and the developers and technology really important, as well as people begin to think about moving from paper and pencil to a digital environment. Many are still doing that around the world. We have the equity and inclusion. Toronto or Ontario is probably one of the most diverse provinces in the world. And so when we begin to look, is our assessment really reflective of the students that are in the classroom? Mm-hmm. And so those equity and inclusion, advocates, we want to be there and present as well. And then, AI and automation is obviously a big part of what's happening. How do we become more efficient? How can AI support assessment design, scoring and reporting and item development? So we're involved in that on our own here, but we're sort of struggling and going through the muddiness right now, right, of how it can be really efficient for us and yet fair to students, because that's obviously, the challenges when we look at assessment in today's age is really around public trust. Right? Like, it's so important. I got so many friends that are parents and there's so many negativity, or there's so much negativity around large scale assessment. What does it mean? How do I interpret this? Is it really a true reflection of my child as they go through the curriculum and the achievement on the curriculum? And so, we face scrutiny and ensuring trust, which is part of our slogan. So trust, transparency, and technology in educational assessments is such an important, it's as important as technical accuracy, right? So, that to us, along with the equity, along with the technology transition for some areas. And even as you move into the digital world, there's so much advancement happening each and every day. You can't stay stagnant, right? So we want to learn from the people in the room and the networking and the ability to share with one another about how we move forward and how we make progress. I think probably the other challenge is really around data ethics and governance, right? Mm-hmm. So when you always think about what the three terms that come top of mind when I'm dealing with our team here at EQAO is around validity, reliability, and credibility, right? Like, those are sort of the foundation of large scale assessment. And so when you look at data ethics and governance, who owns the assessment data, how should it be used responsibly, explaining what that data means and how it should be used, extremely important. So I think those are the challenges. And along with that, those are the people that we want to have in the room at this particular conference for in Toronto in September 2026.
Yeah, I think one of the things I kind of observed and think about when I was, particularly as I mentioned the OECD report, is that a lot of these systems are designed 5 years ago, aren't they? And yeah, not through any kind of slowness, but that's how education works, isn't it? It's quite a slow process, and you need to get it right. But yet the world is rapidly kind of evolving around us, and I think. Do you think AI is one of the biggest topics at the moment, or do you think there is some it kind of comes under that general data piece?
Yeah, I think it's a huge topic, right? Especially in all areas, right? So, um, and it almost reminds me of back the introduction of the internet and how it was going to revolutionize daily life, right? And that's the feeling I get from the implementation of AI. And so, even looking at our own organization, it's not only we're talking about assessments, but we're also talking about what does it mean for our communications? What does it mean for our finance department? What does it mean for our purchasing department? How do we become more efficient and more effective through the use of AI? And I think there's so many promises being made as to what it can do for you. We're trying to figure out what's the reality, right? And we're so very detailed, precise, methodical about everything that we do. I think most people are, if you're in an assessment agency, because you want to get it right. It has to be right because it's going to influence the students that participate in those assessments. So I think for sure, just that's why we're hoping, the advent of technology as part of the conference theme. And we know AI is so prominent. We want to bring the big thinkers, those global thought leaders into the room to have that discussion as well. What are they learning from it? What are some of the advantages that they've seen in the efficiencies? And what were the process and the development of a framework that actually made real good sense for proper implementation?
Yeah, there's some really important points because it's not just the assessment part as well, isn't it? It's the learning component in there as well, and then you've got the work and the employment.
Yeah.
So is it for someone who's, let's say they've seen the conference, they know of it because it moves around internationally, doesn't it? It's been lots of kind of global locations, and I think I think you're a little bit like myself. This is one of the first times that it's been in an accessible position for me, certainly to attend. I'm looking forward to it. What would you say to those kind of first time attendees, the people that are just, okay, shall I go to this? Shall I not? What am I going to get the value out of this? What would be your kind of the message to that first time attendee?
Yeah, I think that's such an important question because, money is tight around the world. And so what makes us different, right? Like, I think that's the key point. And that's what we're trying to relate in all of our messaging going out there. I know our ambassadors and the work that they're doing to make connections. And, what are you talking about? Why is this a different type of conference? Well, I think truly it's one of the few global forums where you are going to see and meet and network with those assessment specialists, those leaders in assessment, the policymakers, the people involved in government, those decision makers, and then those technology innovators, right? And the ability to meet with them as equals and have those discussions. So, you get unprecedented access to those thought leaders, and people are going to be shaping assessment policies and new initiatives and the technology that's going to be used worldwide. And so I think the value for that is exponentially important. But I think also that it's not just theory, right? You're going to hear case studies of how people have implemented, how they've monitored, and what successes and challenges they've had related to the work that they've done in the development of their assessment program. And you may be at the beginning stages of implementing a digital, you may be at a 5 or 10 year stage. And so you've learned things along the way. Like, we're in our 5th year, but we just had our first year of cohort data. And imagine those kids that took it post COVID, right? And knowing where they are now, is there growth? Are there challenges still that exist? And we know it's happening globally, right? So having the opportunity to be exposed to those real case studies, to those thought leaders, and the lessons from systems that have solved some of the problems that you may be experiencing and facing. And then it gives you the chance to benchmark. Here's where I am, and here's where are some other assessment programs around the world where they are, and what are the steps they took to get there, and how do I get there? What are some learnings that I can take away from that? And I think, it just gives those. It many times it's a career defining moment. I always go to when I listen to somebody talk or I go to a conference, I want to come away with 3 things. Right. That's sort of because there's so much information that comes in one ear and out the other. I really make it a priority from my perspective to really dig into 3 particular areas and then flesh out those 3 areas that I really want to learn about. Right. So I think if you come, you're going to have a smorgasbord of opportunity and ideas that you're going to be hearing and involved in and networking with. And I think it's going to be a career defining moment for you as a professional as well.
And it's so important to make those international connections as part of the process, because, like you say, you've got nations that are on that journey. You've got smaller organisations within them that are doing that, but there's the people, isn't it? That's what the most important part for me about these kind of events is meeting people. And I think what was interesting, you didn't mention there the cherry on the top, which is the Niagara Falls kind of trip as well, which is kind of, I think,
I think it's when when you live here and it just becomes second nature, right? But everybody that comes and wants to visit wants to go to Niagara Falls. But you know what? Like we have organized, when people come, it's not just the conference, but in the evenings, we're going to have it mapped out for you. So many different opportunities. Toronto is such a vibrant city. And at this particular, it's beautiful weather at the end of September. So there's opportunities for you to engage in. There's museums, there's concerts going on. There's baseball. The Toronto Blue Jays were in the World Series, well, that'll be just before playoff time again. And we're hoping they're going to be back there. But we have the Dome here in Toronto that has, some wonderful opportunities. If you're a sports enthusiast like I am, there's hockey that will be happening at this particular point in time. So not only that, but then going to Niagara Falls, which is a wonder of the world, right? And that opportunity. And then one of the most beautiful little towns is Niagara-on-the-Lake. And my wife and I go there regularly over the summer. There's we'll take probably 3 or 4 times in the summer. Just go to Niagara-on-the-Lake. The wine region is outstanding there. But the main street on Niagara-on-the-Lake has so many shops, so many bakeries, wonderful restaurants. So it is a wonderful place to visit. And I think I was reflecting back, I was talking to somebody else about our Prime Minister, Mark Carney, who just spoke at the World Economic Forum, right? And there's so much going on in the U.S. that we get meshed in with what's happening in North America. And, I can't go there because look what's going on. We are so different. And I think Mark Carney really put the stamp on the difference between what's it like to be a Canadian, and unfortunately right now, what's it like to be an American. I don't want to get into the political sense of what's happening, but we are different, right? And I think there's been a lot of challenges in Europe and Africa and Asia, and these are the people that we're talking to. Well, come to Canada and see the difference, the welcoming environment, the friendly people, and the exciting opportunities that are available are just so engaging. And I guarantee you it will be a lifetime memory for you, and bring your family as well, because it's a wonderful place to come and explore. Excellent.
And I think, Mark Koenig's kind of speech at Davos was just absolutely phenomenal. It was what the world needed, wasn't it? And I think that to me wraps up everything that I've always known and felt about Canada as a country. So I think to have this conference in Canada now is the best kind of values driven place for it to be. So absolutely top marks for Mark on that one. Thank you very much. I do appreciate your time, and I delighted that, like I say, it's going to be in Toronto. It's going to be, and I think it's going to be an amazing event. And I'm, speaking with the organising people as well, in terms of the team that are planning it. Like you say, there's lots planned. There's going to be a fantastic event. So thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for telling us about the conference and yourself. And I look forward to chatting again in the future. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for the opportunity.